Republicans are getting an earful from their own red district constituents over these Trump-Musk agenda items.
Why are we allowing an unelected person, Elon Musk, to make decisions on our government agencies?
I get it. There's a lot of people in this room that don't support what Doge is doing. But for the first time, we are making some progress.
Listen, when Joe Biden was doing stuff like
I will not cut your Social Security. It is a promise.
We're not at war, and Donald Trump is not a king. He is not above the law. What will you do to make sure he doesn't defy court orders and make a stand for the Constitution and democracy?
it's not healthy for the Republic to have court orders that are not being obeyed.
I support Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency.
What you see there is civics in action. I've told you, the campaign season is over. Town halls are about governing. And for any representatives who take them seriously because they're up for election in the next 2 years, or actually think they want to know what their constituents think, this can matter. Indeed, you saw the softening of some language there about something very basic that led our show tonight, following court orders rather than defying them. But you have a conservative Republican in a conservative district telling everyone, well, yes, we should at least do that. Local groups are also putting up billboards for lawmakers who won't even step up and face peaceful civic questioning like I just showed you. Have you seen our congressman? Meanwhile, I want to play something important from Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski. For years, we have reported on the problem of money in politics. And it is generally, let's be clear, a nonpartisan problem. It afflicts both parties. We've done whole reports here and had guests on, and I've told you about how corporate and Wall Street interests have too much, that is to say, more power because of their money than they would have just in a democracy that reflected what the public thinks. Here's a conservative, Lisa Murkowski, saying that problem has afflicted her party because people are afraid that Musk can use or abuse his money to distort elections.
It may be that Elon Musk has decided he's going to take the next $1 billion that he makes off of Starlink and put it directly against Lisa Murkowski. Everybody else is like, well, how come nobody else is saying anything? Well, figure it out. That's why you've got everybody just like zip lip, not saying a word, because they're afraid they're going to be taken down, they're going to be primaried.
Figure it out. We don't think Lisa Murkowski is a method actor. We think she was really reflecting how she felt. You could see some of her concern there as one of the few outliers who, she says, is not afraid of the primary or will face it if she gets one from Musk. She is describing a party that has been captured. Meanwhile, business leaders and others are grappling with how the Trump economic agenda and the tariff uncertainty is affecting their livelihood.
She's enjoyed owning a craft store, but with tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, she's about to hit a stitch in her business.
Georgia,
Middleburg Heights,
Northeast Wisconsin.
There's changes every day as far as the tariff percentages.
That's really bad for the consumer and obviously for the local business.
It's not easy to pinpoint which country's tariffs would hurt the most.
Tariffs are another added pressure in an already tough environment right now.
If I get hit with those tariffs mid-year, it's going to be an absolute killer on the business.
This is not some conspiracy theory spin that is going to trick people out of what you just saw there around the country, going through the lived reality of the Trump economic agenda. Meanwhile, we have new information from the Federal Reserve, which says the economic outlook is looking worse and worse, with growing inflation, a contrast to lowering the prices that Trump vowed in the campaign, less growth, and just the overall uncertainty. Wall Street is concerned, and those top tech companies, the so-called Magnificent Seven, as well. All right, not that Magnificent Seven, although let us know, Beat fans and viewers, if that rings any bells. But this is a term also used, of course, in the markets. Magnificent Seven is those 7 top tech stocks. That's a mouthful. 7 top tech stocks, my bad. But they're all down in 2025. That's Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, the AI company, Amazon, Musk's Tesla, which crashed by many billions, Google and Meta. They are down, 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 which means their MAGA owners who made such a big bet that was often explained as their smart business plan, even that, by that narrow measure, didn't work. Donald Trump has cost these folks billions of dollars.
I think we have to stand for something. I'm not one of those people who thinks Chuck Schumer should resign or any of that kind of stuff. He's been a very effective leader, but he does not, I mean, and this is endemic in Washington, which as you know, I think is middle school on steroids, essentially. Smart, hardworking, and it's all about them. So the people in Washington generally don't have a good handle on what's going on in the base or in the country. And it's one of the reasons we struggle to win. So we really need to be outside Washington. That's where our message needs to come from. I do think the Democrats ought to be having town meetings, and I like this idea that's been floated, and I think it's where Democratic congressmen go and have town meetings in Republican districts, since the Republicans aren't doing town meetings. We've got to, and I've said this before on this show, we've got to be out there knocking on doors, and I don't mean the congressmen. I mean people running for the local offices and the DNC
which you have a track record on from Democracy for America. I mean, but you specifically on DFA and other efforts. Since you mentioned Schumer, let me play what he's saying. That's his side of the story, as well as his interview with Chris Hayes. Take a look.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer explained his decision to vote for the Republican bill.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal.
There's only one choice to going along with it. Shut down. We have to pick the fights. Look, if our democracy is at risk.
It is at risk.
It is certainly at risk.
Well, do you believe it is?
But if
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe it's a
Trump?
You think we're not there yet?
Well, I think we're getting there, and we have to be really vigilant.
Howard?
Our democracy certainly is at risk. And that was the fundamental mistake that I think Chuck made. He's a brilliant tactician. And let's not forget, he's gotten all those judges through for Biden, who even out-appointed Trump in his term. But I don't think people from Washington understand what's going on in this country. I really don't. And you have to fight. You have to be willing to commit. And that's what I thought AOC was so good at. I think, you know, Bernie and I have had our tiffs over the years. We share the same state, but he's exactly on the message right now with this trip that he and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are taking. And we have to be like that. We have to be willing to show that we're going to stand up for people. And that's why Trump won. Trump convinced them falsely, because he lied every single day he was out there, that he was going to stand up for them. And they figured, well, okay, let's give it a shot. And, you know, we've got to be out there, and we've got to be at every door, and it can't be the same old from inside the Beltway, who has a different agenda, not a bad agenda for the country, but a different agenda. And the emergency agenda right now is for most Americans is, how the hell am I going to make a living? And Trump's making things worse.
For weeks now, town hall after town hall, one question, one topic comes up again and again and again at every single one of these Q&A sessions. And it's one of those issues that, again, you just can't be on the wrong side of in American politics. But Republicans are this year, thanks to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Watch.
Our next question is from Polly from a 288 zip code area. What are you doing to ensure the protection of our Social Security benefits?
Good question. I really want to know from you, will you protect Social Security in its current form?
Next question. What are your plans to cut Social Security?
I want to be this is a very easy question for me to answer. Any changes to Social Security are not on the table, and I will not cut your Social Security. It is a promise between you and the federal government.
Social Security is a promise between you and the federal government. Congressman Mike Flood doing his best yesterday in Nebraska, and you could hear his constituents reacting. If his constituents are feeling a little insecure about Social Security, there's good reason for that. In addition to Social Security firing thousands of people who work at that agency and announcing plans to shut down dozens of Social Security field offices, The agency now plans to put new requirements in place that will send millions more people to local offices in person, if they can find one, instead of being able to solve things with the administration over the phone. An internal memo from top officials at Social Security says 75 to 85,000 more people each week, senior citizens and disabled people, will have to deal with their Social Security benefits in person because of the changes Trump is making. 75 to 85,000 more customers in person per week while the agency is shutting down offices and firing their staff. These new rules are no longer just proposals. They are apparently set to take effect March 31st, a week and a half from now.
Look at the empty seats here. Where's Elon Musk? If he's so great, if these plans and all the fraud and abuse that he found are so evident, why isn't he here explaining it? You know why. Because he's out to privatize Social Security. He's been on television the last couple of days talking exactly about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and what he intends to do. Privatize it. The American people, some of them may have been born at night, but not last night.
They will teach that clip in freshman orientation for new members of Congress, if there's any justice in the world. The moment when Connecticut Democratic Congressman John Larson pretty much burned down the barn over the issue of Social Security and what Trump and his top campaign donor are doing to it. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate taking the time.
Oh, glad to be with you, Rachel, and thank you for your voice.
Well, let me ask you about your voice. You gave a real clarion call in Congress last week. We highlighted that here on the show. I wanted to ask what you are hearing from your constituents. I know you just had a town hall, and I know you got a lot of attention
I did just have
for those
the
remarks.
same thing. There's frustration across the country and in the districts. And most of the time it's individuals saying, look, we don't hear enough from Congress, even though I assure you, and I think you know this, how hard everyone's working, et cetera. But this particular proposal that they had was a resolution that actually started back in the 1799 and was modified in 1879, which provides a check for the legislative branch on the executive branch. The resolution of inquiry requires that they take the bill up within 14 days, or the bill goes directly to the floor for a vote. So what the Republicans did was adjourn the Congress on Tuesday night, hold a meeting Monday morning early with little people there, and clearly, as you saw from the clip, no Elon Musk and no head of the Social Security Administration. And the outrage here is what they're doing, and the fact that they think that Elon Musk is above the law and that he doesn't have to come before the United States Congress or the Ways and Means Committee. I think my Republican colleagues were embarrassed by this fact, but we're going to keep it up. Rich Neal was in the papers again today calling for another, motion of inquiry so that we get Elon Musk before the committee and demand answers for the American people.
What do you think they are trying to do to Social Security? The changes that they are forcing through, that they now say are going to start the last day of this month, seem like they are changes that are designed to cause chaos, designed to cause breakdown, and designed to screw up the basic functions of the agency. To what end? What do you think they're doing?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the hammer there, Rachel, because that's exactly what they're doing. And here's the goal. What they're trying to do is say in the committee that Trump's indicated that he's not going to touch Social Security. And the Republicans continue to repeat. And all Elon Musk is after is fraud, abuse, and waste. Well, if he is, bring it before us because we'd like to hear it. In fact, bring him before us so we get to see his plan. But the plan, unlike previous plans to privatize Social Security, is to scuttle the agencies themselves. Social Security already is trimmed. It has an administrative operating cost of under 1%. There's no other agency in the federal government that operates like that, or I dare say in the private sector either. I'm from an insurance capital of the world, and the administrative costs are 16 to 26%. So what they're up to is to scuttle the agency, make it appear that it's not working and not answering people's concerns, and then passing legislation that's unpaid for, draining the Social Security Trust Fund. When Trump charges him with finding $2 trillion, everybody's attention should go up when you look at the Social Security Trust Fund, which is $2.7 trillion. And so he's made no bones about it on Larry Kudlow or any other place that they're going to privatize it. And then they deny that in front of the committee and won't bring them in front of the Ways and Means Committee to face the public and to face the questions that Congress has.
Congressman John Larson, Democrat of Connecticut, please come back and talk to us about this. I know you're not going to let it go. Thank you, sir.
I look forward to it, Rachel. Thank you so much.
All right. Of course. We'll be right back.
Look, in the face of everything that's happening, it takes guts for ordinary people to stand up against it. But here's the thing. So many people are. Like Sarah Inama. For the past 4 years, she's taught world civilization to sixth graders at Lewis and Clark Middle School in Meridian, Idaho. And like all teachers, she decorates her classroom with motivational posters. Posters like this one that says, "In this room, everyone is welcome, important, accepted, respected, encouraged, valued, and equal." An even more straightforward one showing children's raised hands with the tagline, "Everyone is welcome here." You have probably seen this kind of stuff a million times in kids' classrooms. I know I have as a dad. The kind of inspirational messages that are simply meant to tell students, whoever you are in the right place, you belong here. Shouldn't be controversial, right?
So for 4 years, these signs have survived sans harassment. Nobody said a word about them. That is, until about a month ago.
My building administration came to me during my lunch period and told me that they needed to be taken down by the end of the day. They told me that they were in violation of district policy because in today's political environment, they're considered a personal opinion.
Did they say somebody complained about them?
No. I asked if anyone had complained about them, and they said, no, we just want to protect you from that if that were to happen.
In this political environment?
Mm-hmm.
That is not acceptable.
Yeah, I was told a couple things. That everyone is welcome here is not something that everybody believes. So that's what makes it a personal opinion.
You were told this?
Mm-hmm.
That not everybody believes everyone is welcome.
Right.
Not everyone believes everyone is welcome. Believe it or not, that is the new policy of the West Ada School District. It is a policy they updated after Idaho lawmakers passed a state law stating that critical race theory divides people and is contrary to the unity of the nation and the well-being of the state. The team trying to cancel this classroom poster is in a kid's classroom is led by the school district's chief academic officer, Marcus Myers. And yes, he says the problem here is the colors of the hands.
If there was a poster that just said everyone is welcome here, black background, white words, do you think the team would have objected to that?
I don't think the team would have. Now, that would have been a team decision, but I don't think the team would have. And I say that because those exist in our schools.
I was going to say, you have things that are almost identical to this. They just don't have multicoloring, and then they don't have the hands that obviously are different shades of skin tone, right? Ranging from white all the way to black.
Yeah. So the text by itself doesn't allow for interpretation.
Okay, so that's school district chief academic officer Marcus Myers. Everyone is welcome here as long as you're not talking about, everyone. As dumb as this is, and boy, it's dumb, this is what is happening across the country. Civil rights initiatives, anti-discrimination initiatives, diversity initiatives, inclusion, all being gutted. So, if you were in that teacher's position, what would you do?
Because I was told to take it down by the end of the day, I did so. And the following few days, I just was so unsettled by it. And so I went back into my classroom and put it back up. And I emailed my principal and said, I don't agree. I don't agree that this is a personal opinion. I feel like this is the basis of public education.
Sarah Anama says the school district offered to buy her other, less controversial posters. She says Myers, the district boss, told her the political environment ebbs and flows, and what might be controversial now might not have been controversial 3, 6, 9 months ago, and we have to follow that. They have now given her until the end of the school year to take down the posters or face possible punishment for insubordination. That, she says, just solidified her resolve.
I just feel like, as a teacher, and I feel like probably a lot of teachers share this sentiment, I would do anything to protect my students. I love all of them unconditionally. We protect them from danger. Quite literally would take a bullet for these students. And this is the one small thing that I feel like I can do to speak out against this and stand up for them, to protect them from being affected by racist sentiments affecting their classroom. I find it hard to grapple with the fact that the reason why this poster needs to come down is because there are people outside of our school that disagree with it.
Now, Sarah Anama was not alone. Her students have staged walkouts on her behalf and are supporting her decision to keep the posters up. By sharing bracelets and T-shirts with that message, everyone is welcome here. It is amazing to watch this history teacher at a grade school in Idaho stand up to the creeping fascism of her state and her school district, while so many of the elected leaders in our country, Democrats and Republicans, seem entirely complacent in the face of it. But everywhere you look, ordinary citizens are out there on their own in demonstrations and council meetings expressing their fear and their anger and their hope for this country and wondering where their leaders are. Just look at what's happening at Republican town halls.
Elon Musk gets $40 billion a year in funding from the federal government. What makes you think that that has no conflict of interest, that he has no conflict of interest? Do you think he would cut that before he would cut our Medicare or our Social Security or our jobs?
I support Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency.
I believe that the president is very supportive of Ukraine. Like him or not, Elon Musk has brought a lot of really smart people to Doge.
So, it's not good, it's not healthy for the Republic to have court orders that are not being obeyed. It's also... It's also not healthy for the Republic when you have district judges that probably don't have the authority issuing national-wide injunctions. So let's get...
How can you be against a balanced budget? All right. All right. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So your proposal to solve this is to tax the rich.
All of that is just the latest in weeks' worth of everyday Americans speaking truth, demanding more from their politicians in this moment. And not just from politicians at every level. They're wondering, as I am, why university presidents and heads of NGOs and titans of industry and so many people who have status and a platform and so much they owe this country aren't doing more and saying more about the danger that is enveloping us. I think we need people across every sector of society to show the courage, not just of these protesters, but the bravery of Sarah Anama, an Idaho school teacher who's risking so much to stand for what's right.
With the constant stream of headlines and legal developments coming out of this administration, it's important to take a step back every once in a while and remind ourselves that none of this is normal. Case in point, President Trump made his feud with Canada. It's completely made up. An obsession that even his friends at Fox can't seem to understand.
You're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st state. And
okay, but but
listen to this for a second.
We need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going to let them get close to China.
Look,
right?
I deal with every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada.
All Laura had to say, you cray-cray. Like I said, this is not normal. Back with me are Mary McCord, Eugene Daniels, and Charlie Sykes. So I want to go, Charlie, to this little ditty that's about to hit the streets. New reporting from USA Today and confirmed by our own NBC's Garrett Haake. Trump to sign an order to eliminate the Department of Education. The White House confirms, according to Garrett Hake's reporting, that the president is set to sign an executive order on Thursday directing the Secretary of Education to, quote, take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to the states. Here's the sweet part. While continuing to ensure the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. Well, if the department goes away, who's delivering those services, benefits, and programs? This is, Charlie?
Well, what could go wrong? I'm sure that Elon Musk has figured that out, right? I mean, you could tell that given his careful and his prudent approach to cutting spending, I'm sure that he's got a thing. But can we talk about Canada for a minute? I mean, seriously. I mean, honestly, could we just stop here? Because I am old enough to remember when this was a South Park gag, war with Canada. The fact that there you have the president of the United States, the same day that he has been basically rolled by Vladimir Putin, saying that the nastiest country he has to deal with is Canada. And you can tell from Laura Ingram's response to this, I mean, she is a complete loyalist, and she is thinking, seriously, she's almost laughing at him because it is so crazy. So for all the Trump-splainers out there who think that Donald Trump has this, world view, that he's got this strategy or he's playing four-dimensional chess, look, I mean, he's got policies on some issues, he's got impulses, and then he's got these bizarre fetishes. And this is one of those things where people are trying to figure out, you're joking, right? You're really not serious about this. This is not one of your strange ideas. But I will be honest with you. I don't know what you think about this. I thought he was just kind of trolling people when he started talking about this. That this was kind of a joke, but he is serious about it. And if Donald Trump is actually serious about taking over Canada, what does that say about the man who is the president of the United States right now? Because to say that it's not normal seems to understate the case, doesn't it, Michael?
Eugene, you've talked to the Canadians, so maybe you can help Charlie and me understand what this is all about.
I did a podcast a month and a half ago with the Canadian ambassador, and this was kind of after Donald Trump first started talking about them as the 51st state, when he was calling Justin Trudeau, who was the prime minister at the time, the governor of the 51st state. He said it to him at dinner. She was sitting right next to them at the dinner table when this happened. And I said, what does this feel like to be a country this is your ally, right? You're at the table with the president, and he wants to make you a state and cut you up, and how would that work? And what she said was the way they saw it, and can probably continue to see it, is like the big brother needling the little brother, right? Just making fun of him, like trying to make it difficult, and they didn't really take it seriously. My understanding is that that has kind of changed with exactly what Charlie's talking about, because it keeps coming up. But I think what's at the center of this for Donald Trump is an expansion of American power, right? And so one of the things that he appreciates about Russian President Vladimir Putin is that he wants to expand and seemingly make his country bigger all the time, and that is something that Donald Trump is interested in, right? That's why he talks about Greenland. That's why he talks about the Panama Canal, because that goes back to a yesteryear when the United States was bigger and thinking larger larger, right? At this point, we had kind of stopped, right? We weren't adding any states. This was what we had. And for him, a real estate mogul, right, by trade, expanding all of that is very important. And for him, it makes the country look more important and bigger on the world stage. And so people should probably take it seriously when he's talking about these things. No idea how it would operate. And when you ask the White House, like, what that looks like when these countries say, we're not for sale, you can't annex us, we're not interested in it, like, how would that work? They don't really have an answer. And sometimes even some of the aides laugh.
So he doesn't want to take us to war in Ukraine, but he wants to take us to the Middle East, but he wants to take us to war against, Empire, Charlie, against Canada.
This morning, reaction growing after the Trump administration released thousands of pages about the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Joining us now, someone who has been going through the files, Jefferson Morley, editor of the JFK Facts and Substack and vice president of the Mary Ferrell Foundation. Jefferson, thanks so much for being with us, Jefferson. What are your takeaways so far? There's a lot of this, and a lot of this is not really organized.
Yeah, so we spent last night going through the 2,000 or so documents, and I got to tell you, Lincoln, there's a sensational story here that people need to know. This is not a nothing burger, as people will tell you. There's an amazingly interesting and pregnant story in these JFK files. Let me explain. Late last night, we got the unredacted testimony of CIA counterintelligence chief James Angleton, who testified behind closed doors to Senate investigators in 1975. Up till yesterday, about 40 pages of the 113-page transcript were redacted. All of those redactions have come off, and we see a new window into the CIA's pre-assassination surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald. One document, FBI document released yesterday, indicates that Angleton recruited Lee Harvey Oswald as a 20-year-old Marine as a contact or a source for the CIA in 1959. Other documents released in recent years show that Angleton kept Oswald under surveillance, monitoring his politics, his personal life, his foreign travels, his contacts for the next 4 years, from November 1959 to November 1963. By November 1963, we now know, thanks to these documents, Angleton had a 180-page file on Oswald on his desk a week before Kennedy went to Dallas. So what this story raises is the question, was the CIA incredibly, atrociously incompetent when it came to Lee Harvey Oswald? Or was Angleton actually running an operation involving Oswald? We don't have the answer to that question because there's still some relevant records to come out. For example, one file of another CIA officer who was involved in the pre-assassination surveillance of Oswald is still kept secret. So this is a great first start. There's an incredible story here, but we need to do more research.
Jefferson, and talk to us, if you would, a little bit more about who Angleton was. And then is there anywhere any document or information? I was listening last night to some of the audio tapes that the CIA carried out of the Cuban embassy in Mexico City when they used Oswald supposedly being there or not. Right. But talk to us about Angleton. And at the time, you know, President Kennedy was so involved in what was going on in Vietnam. Others totally in opposition to what the United States military wanted. And also sending that reporter to Cuba to speak with Fidel Castro, Jean Daniel. Is there any possibility of getting this stuff anywhere?
You know, it is coming out, and we need to spend more time with this. But what we see in the latest releases is this pattern of malfeasance on the part of the CIA. You talk about Kennedy's interest in Cuba. You know, one of the important documents that surfaced yesterday is about the origins of Kennedy's mistrust of the CIA, which started in 1961 and continued through 1963. And we got a memo yesterday about Kennedy's plans to reorganize the CIA. And a lot of that memo had been redacted before. We now understand why Kennedy mistrusted the CIA, and a mistrust that, to be sure, was returned by CIA officers who did not like his liberal policies.
Jefferson, you and I could talk a lot about. I hope we can continue our conversation going forward. I very much appreciate.
There's more to come, Lincoln.